Hello friends, I am Ruby Unyal, Head Department of Psychology, KTHM College, Nasik. Friends, in the previous video, we have discussed the different perspectives of psychology. Now we have to just keep in mind one thing, that all these psychologists are trying to discuss or trying to define one concept, and that is psychology. But the difference is they all view psychology from a different perspective. They are also called as the different schools of psychology. Till today, we have discussed structuralism, which was proposed by Wilhelm Wundt. We have studied functionalism, given by William James. Then we had Gestalt psychology, which was given by Max Wertheimer, Wolfgang Kohler, and Kurt Kofka. Today, we are going to talk about psychoanalysis and behaviorism in detail. Let us begin with psychoanalytic theory. Perhaps the school of psychology that is most familiar to the general public is the psychodynamic approach to understanding behavior, which was proposed by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud and his followers called it as the psychodynamic psychology. It is an approach to understanding human behavior that focuses on the role of unconscious thoughts, feelings, and memories. Freud studied neurology, but he wanted to be a medical researcher, but forced into being a private physician. Freud developed his theories about behavior through extensive analysis of the patients that he treated in his private clinical practice. Freud believed that many of the problems that his patients experienced, including anxiety, depression, and sexual dysfunction, were the result of the effects of painful childhood experiences that the person could no longer remember. Now, when you're going to study MA in psychology or probably even in the TY, we are going to study number of personality theorists. So Freud was one of the psychologists who has proposed a whole theory of psychosexual theory of personality. Now, the biographical sketch of Sigmund Freud too is very interesting. For those students who are really interested in psychoanalysis, should really go out and read the biography of Sigmund Freud. Most of the concepts that we are going to study in his theory are part of his past experiences. And Freud himself has given lot of importance to childhood experiences. He became convinced that patients' difficulties were due to mental rather than physical problems. Today we also call them as psychosomatic disorders. Friends, many a time we observe that people experiences some kind of physical pain, like people in the teaching profession always have a thought that they are too overworked and they have to speak a lot, and so they have problems with the throat. Similarly, some people who are confined to desk job complain about backaches and other problems. People who have to do jobs standing all the time, they feel tired, or they have problems with the back or the legs. So many a times it is observed that most of the problems that people encounter, they are more in the mind rather than the physical state. He proposed that distress due to problems that dated back to childhood. So Freud was of the opinion that the childhood experiences have a profound impact on the individual. Freud's ideas were extended by other psychologists whom he influenced, including Carl Jung. Now, although the spelling is Jung, it is pronounced as Jung, who lived from 1875 to 1961. Alfred Adler, who was from 1870 to 1937, and Karen Horney, who is a female psychologist. She worked from 1855 to 1952, and Erik Erikson, who worked in the time of 1902 to 1994. These and others who follow the psychodynamic approach believe that it is possible to help the patient if the unconscious drives can be remembered, particularly through a deep and thorough exploration of the person's early sexual experiences and current sexual desires. Now, these explorations are revealed through talk therapy and dream analysis in a process called as psychoanalysis. The major criticism also to Freud's theory was that lot of importance was given to unconscious mind and childhood memories, but it was difficult to study these experiences. Although initially it was called as psychodynamic approach, later on it became popular with the name of psychoanalysis. Now psychoanalysis is defined as a set of psychological theories and therapeutic techniques that have their origin in the work and theories of Sigmund Freud. The core of psychoanalysis is the belief that all people possess unconscious thoughts, feelings, desires, and memories. The purpose of psychoanalysis is that it is a method of treating emotional difficulties that involves communication between a psychoanalyst and an individual with the goal of gaining insight into the individual's inner world and how it affects his or her emotions, behavior, and relationships. The basic idea of psychoanalytic theory of personality is it argues that human behavior is a result of interactions among three component parts of the mind, that is the id, the ego, and the superego. Now friends, we have studied this in our lower classes. We know something about the id, ego, and the superego. Now psychoanalytic theory strongly believes that the human mind is driven by these three ego states. The first, that is the id ego, it works on the pleasure principle. So it generally tells people to follow his mind. So you may do whatever you feel like doing. This is what id tells us to do. The ego works on reality principle. So the ego tries and looks for facts around us. So whether they are negative or positive, but the facts are brought about by the ego. And lastly, you have the superego, which works on the ideal principle. So what we can call as superego is someone who monitors our actions, or it is superego that decides how the person should behave. Now, at a given time, the human mind can be dominated by any one of these ego states. The major criticism to the psychoanalytic theory is as let us look at the major criticism of this theory. One of the largest criticism of the psychoanalytic theory is that it places far too much emphasis on childhood. One of the other criticism of this theory was directed on this idea of unconscious mind. The critics stated that the unconscious mind did not consist of hidden or repressed passionate emotions, and it was also difficult to study the unconscious mind. After the psychodynamic approach, let's move on to yet another approach of behaviorism. The transition from structuralism to functionalism reflects the rapidly changing times in psychology. In just the span of 20 years, that is from 1880 to 1900, the major focal point of psychology shifted from Germany to America. Multiple changes were taking place, and the work and influence of Charles Darwin was becoming better known. In 1913, a functionalism trained John Watson literally declared war against the establishment by describing a totally new approach to psychology, that is, behaviorism. The goals of this new behaviorism were to study only behaviors and processes that were totally objective and fully observable. That is, he was totally against the structure of the mind or the working of the mind or the unconscious thoughts. Rather, in behaviorism, more stress was given to the objective behavior or to the observable behavior. In this new system, there would be no introspection, no discussion of mental concepts, no study of the mind, and no mention of consciousness. Watson, in a pure scientific approach, wanted to study behavior, making no assumption beyond what was available to the senses. Although behaviorism had a slow beginning, it took off in the 1920s and became the dominant system of psychology for 4 decades. Any type of behavior was appropriate for study under Watson so long as it met the criteria of behaviorism. The method of behaviorism was limited to observation and objective testing only, that is, experimentation. Hence, behaviorism is a theory that human or animal psychology can be objectively studied through the observable actions, that is, behavior. And now the study of psychology started becoming more scientific. This field of study came about as a reaction to 19th century psychology, which used self examination of one's thoughts and feelings to examine human and animal psychology. So now, rather than stressing on introspective approach, more importance was given to behavior, which was an objective study, and we could observe these particular behaviors. So there was nothing that was talked about the mental state or the unconscious mind or the conscious mind. Rather, now everything was in black and white. Whatever we observed, we had to study the same thing. So behaviorism gave more objectivity to the study of psychology. John Watson is famous for having founded classical behaviorism, an approach to psychology that treated a behavior, both animal and human, as a conditioned response of an organism to environmental stimuli and inner biological processes, and that rejected as unscientific all supposed psychological phenomena that were not objectively measurable or observable. So, psychology can never be as objective as chemistry or biology, and consciousness is not that easy. Now, John Watson was of the view that I can take a child and make him into anything, a beggar, a doctor, a thief. So, if you recall, friends, we had talked something about the nature nurture controversy. So, nature was something talking about inheritance or talking about heredity or genetics. That is, we would be what we have inherited from our parents. But John Watson was of the view that nurture was more important, and he stressed on the environmental factors, the upbringing of the child, and hence he made this bold statement that if you give me a child, I can make him into anything you desire, a beggar, a doctor, or a thief. But of course, these are unethical experiments and there are ethical issues related to such kind of experiments. Then we have yet another proponent of behaviorism, B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner was one of the most influential of American psychologists, a behaviorist. He developed the theory of operant conditioning, the idea that behavior is determined by its consequence, by the reinforcements or punishments which make it more or less likely that the behavior will occur again. Skinner referred to his own philosophy as radical behaviorism and suggested that the concept of free will was simply an illusion. A human action, he instead believed, was the direct result of conditioning. Now, before this, there were experiments done by Ivan Pavlov on classical conditioning, but Skinner did more experiments on operant conditioning. He totally dismissed the importance of inherited traits and instincts about human behavior. Private events can be studied as long as they are tested as a form of behavior. He conducted many experiments with learning and memory. He believed that all behavior is a result of rewards and punishments in the past. So more importance was given to operant conditioning. In yet another chapters, we would be studying about conditioning in detail. So friends, today we have discussed the three perspectives in detail, They are the Gestalt psychology, psychoanalysis and behaviorism. In the next video, we will be discussing different branches or fields of psychology along with their career opportunities. Thanks a lot for watching this video.